Hi, welcome to Foreigner in the Philippines. Well, I think that life is really about what you can learn, what can you take home with you. That's when you take home. By take home, I mean at the end of the day when you go inside your own head and there's only you in there. You close your eyes and nobody else in there. So, what have you taken home from the day? And my intention is never to teach. My intention is to share what I've learned. And what I've learned is that you learn more if you listen than if you talk. I know that's a contradiction because here I am talking. Alright, well, I'm sharing those things which I've found the most interesting during the day. And these days, often being tested, often having to stand firm in one's own viewpoint, I think of that as power. Now, what is power? Well, the definition that I liked the best was the ability to hold one's position. That's the ability to hold your position. That's power. So, why do we need to be able to hold our position? Well, we get battered back and forth, don't we, on holding our position. You know, you stand up and you say, I'd really like to do this. And somebody inevitably will come up and say, no, you can't do that. It doesn't make sense, or it doesn't do this, or it doesn't do that. And what you have is the reasoning of various people when they come out and they oppose you. Why are they opposing you? Well, everybody has their own agenda, and depending on what you are doing and how much it may threaten in someone else's viewpoint, may threaten their position, then they're not going to let you get by with deciding that you want to do that. I've had this many times. I mean, a lot of people said, well, you can't go to America, not at your age. Oh, I had that a lot. And we took off to America at the end of a disaster of a marriage, which just ended badly. My mother used to always say, it'll end in tears. If I was in an argument with my sister or my brother, she would say, it'll end in tears. And that was her answer to anything that was going to go wrong. So what did I do? I found that you're the only one, after a while, you're the only one that can make your own decisions. So it's pretty good advice to limit the amount of advice that you seek. That's not the same as not listening and learning. I remember someone telling me that they had asked their brothers, a woman, she asked her brothers for advice, and her brothers, who were older than she and considered themselves pretty clever guys, gave her advice. Well, you should be doing this, or you should be doing that. And her idea was that it was going to be a one-time only seeking of advice. What shall I do on this particular occasion? Well, what she did was she placed herself junior to her brothers, and her brothers after that constantly not just gave her advice but told her what to do. There's a big difference between giving advice and being told and telling someone what to do. Tell someone what to do and you're living their life for them, and you can't do that. So I had a lot of people try to live my life for me, and you kind of lose a lot of friends. You go through a lot of friends, and only the ones who really actually their only agenda is that they want to see you happy, they're the real friends. And what is that popular saying? If you can count on the fingers of one hand your friends at the end of your life, you are a lucky person. trying to keep it politically correct there by not saying you're a lucky man. You're a lucky man or woman. Okay, so we have to safeguard the friends that we have, treat them with respect, and listen to what they have to say. But mainly, it's down to us. As I've said this many times before, when you close your eyes and sleep, at the end of the day, you're the only one in there. So better be sure that what you've done, what you do, what you plan on doing, is really what you want for yourself. I've mentioned this before too. These lessons keep coming up. This is another thing that I found, is that you can learn something and learn it again and again and again. And every time it takes on a different meaning. And a good example of this would be when you read a book. And let's say that the book is a pretty meaningful book. It's not, say, some little pop book or a simple romance, very straightforward romance. Boy tries to get the girl, another boy comes in and challenges it. Then there's an ensuing battle, and then finally the girl decides on which one she wants. So it's not that kind of book. It's a book with some meaning, some challenge, parts that you don't quite understand. You read that book, and it's a different book every time that you read it. And sometimes the information that we take in is different every time we look at it. I consider one of the best books I've ever read to be Catch-22. Now, you can read that book over and over, and it's a different book every time that you read it. So, when you learn something, I've found, for me, and that is that you can learn it again. And you can learn it again in a different way. It doesn't invalidate what you learned prior to that relearning. It just means that you've looked at it in a different way. So, taking in information, nothing stays the same, that's for sure. Nothing, our lives don't stay the same. The way that we live our life doesn't stay the same. And the ability to change and take in information that you already have, but take it in a different way, is really important. My way of getting through the day is still the same one as George Burns, the famous comedian in America. He's gone now, sadly. George and Gracie Burns were a great double act. And George Burns was asked when he was 84, he said, you know, George, how do you do it? You just look so happy and nothing ever seems to faze you. And he said, I try to get through every day with the least amount of aggravation. Can't get much simpler than that, can it? Another old age one that while I'm passing on the lessons that other people have taught me, was that the writer whose name I cannot remember, he was asked, he was well up into his 80s, and the journalist who was talking to him assumed that he was no longer interested in sex, and he said, what's it like to not need sex anymore? What's it like? And the writer said, it's like being unchained from a maniac. I really like that one. So, that was enough of all of that. That's another late night meandering, and it's now 11:45 at night, and I'm on my way up to bed. So, as a foreigner in the Philippines, thanks for looking in and for being interested. If you're still here, then you must have found something that would interest you. So, bye for now.